Let's discuss the first poll question as an illustration of how to apply the ideas and skills in this section. It is about Ringo's attempted suicide. The truck driver, Ringo, feels guilty for what he did. He did not obey the traffic lights because he was drunk. His truck ran into the minibus, causing 5 people, including Joey, to be killed and many more injured. He could not forgive himself. And he could not stand the accusations and blames from the surviving victims, their families and society. He thinks that, by ending his life, he can escape from the overwhelming pressure. And the poll question asks whether Ringo's suicide is worth it. Now, from your study of this course, is there any idea you can apply so that Ringo could be persuaded not to kill himself? Now, to convince Ringo, you need to show him a better attitude towards life. You need to demonstrate that there is a point for him to live on. Above all, you need to illustrate that there is an entry point available to him so that he can rediscover by himself the reason why he should not commit suicide. It is important for him to understand that he can still embrace the positive values of life at this critical moment of his life. Let's start with Aristotle. Aristotle says that one swallow does not make a summer. By this statement, he means that one moment of happiness does not guarantee that your whole life is happy. For this reason, you have to keep cultivating your virtues or functional excellence in order to obtain genuine eudaimonia, which is long-lasting. Eudaimonia is about your whole life. It is your whole life that counts. For Ringo, you may adapt Aristotle's point in your advice. Now, for any blunder you make, it does not mean that it is the end of your world. The value of your life is determined not by 1 or 2 incidents in your life. It is holistically determined by what you did in the past and also what you will do in future. In his future, Ringo still has the ability to contribute to society. For instance, he can use his own experience to illustrate the problem of alcoholism to the public. He can help people to be more sensitive to the issue of drinking and driving. This requires true repentance on his part. To express his remorse and regret to the victims and their families can lessen their sorrow and anger. This is the least he should and could do after the fatal accident. Ringo should focus on what he can do in future. He should not negatively prejudge the point of his whole life. He should adopt a holistic viewpoint of eudaimonia for himself. After all, like anyone else, he has the ability to redress his faults. We may also highlight Kant's points. Kant explains that there is no problem in this world where the only solution is to kill yourself. For Kant, there is always a solution other than killing oneself. If Ringo feels guilty of his wrongdoing, he should take up responsibility by admitting his faults. He should let justice be served by accepting the consequences of his action, including the legal penalty. Facing the charges is to have justice served. This requires courage, but it is worth Ringo's efforts because in that case he is doing something right. He is also giving himself a chance to correct his faults. This is genuine self-love. Killing oneself is not. At the same time, committing suicide is preventing justice from being served in society. Nor does it do justice to Ringo himself, for in that case he would let go of the chance to become a better person. To accept accountability is also a way of alleviating your sense of guilt. This converges with Mill's point: if one causes less suffering by being willing to accept the consequences of their wrongdoing, one is doing something right. Furthermore, expressing his remorse and regret to the victims' families is another way for Ringo to lessen his sorrow. In turn, lessening the suffering in society is a way of lessening one's sense of guilt, which is Ringo's current own suffering as well. Ringo can also be inspired by Nick Vujicic. Ringo thinks that he cannot handle the suffering that he has caused. He does not know how to face himself, the victims, their families and the society. However, Vujicic seems to be in a more challenging situation because he cannot change the fact that he has no limbs, and he has to address all the challenges he encounters in his whole life. But he still flourishes. His 4 attitudes, that is, gratitude, action, empathy and forgiveness, are all useful. If Ringo wants to be forgiven, he should be empathetic with the victims and their families, and take action in admitting his faults and let justice be served. Given the fatal accident as such, Ringo should be grateful that he is still given the chance to remedy the wrongs he has done. He still has the chance. Finally, Nick also shared that he had suicidal thoughts in his childhood. In fact, Nick at one point in his life felt that his life was pointless and meaningless. It was because of his love of his parents and family that he abandoned his suicidal thoughts. Therefore, Ringo should be reminded of the people who love him, whether they are his family or friends. This is in fact also the point made by Paco when he sees Ringo standing at the edge of the building in the Micro movie. Certainly, Ringo may not be so easily persuaded. It is about both reason and emotion. Here I think Moser Wellman's 5-phase creativity is useful for you to provide any counsel or empathetic advice to. First of all, we should apply the skills of the observer and monitor Ringo's responses. We should adjust our approaches depending on his attitudes. We should be sensitive to his feelings when giving any advice to him. Also, when we show Ringo what he can do in the future, we may adopt the skills of the seer so that we help him visualize the positive aspects of the future when he faces the consequences of his actions. It is very important for him to understand that his life is not a dead end. Ringo has become pessimistic and we need to bring him out from his negative views. An image of what he can positively contribute to others and to himself is very important for Ringo. The seer skills are very useful in this regard. Depending on his responses, we may combine and remix the three thinkers' ideas so as to drive home the point that suicide is never a solution. This is the skill of the alchemist. To invoke his affection of his own family is also a way for him to learn to have empathy with the victims and their families. This combines care for his own families and also the victims. Therefore, Ringo has to do something for them as a way to redress his wrongdoing. Ringo should know that his family would feel proud of him if he chose not to escape from his responsibilities by committing suicide. How about the creativity phases of the Fool and the Sage? Here I will not further labor on these points. I hope I have illustrated the ways you can apply the positive values and skills in giving advice to Ringo. Of course, these values and skills are also applicable to yourself when you meet with problems and challenges. When you are down, you find it difficult to motivate yourself to apply these powerful skills. That is why these positive values are very important to keep your problems in perspective and help you be in a position that is resilient to any negative values or pessimism. I say a successful life lies at the interaction of positive values and powerful skills. This applies to our own cases as well as to other people when we aim to encourage them. For that purpose, I hope that you will find inspiration and skills from this course. This is indeed also the goal of this course.